This podcast contains potentially adult language, adult themes, definitely drinking, and possibly sexual context. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Drinking with Authors, the Literary Briefs edition. I'm your host, Erica Lance. My co-host today is Vanessa Valiente, who actually took over pretty much hosting the last episode. I might be the co-host today. I'm still not sure on how that's working. Very sassy today. Our guest is Elmon Dean Todd of Godshard. I just like saying that. Sounds like a town. Okay, let's talk about what we are continuing to drink. I am drinking now my second one of these I found, which is Peach Mango Angry Orchard.
What's
Super
the alcohol
excited about this. I found two. It's peach. It's so nice. It's hard fruit cider instead of apple cider.
Delicious.
Anyway,
it's
Vanessa,
dangerous.
it is very dangerous.
I'm drinking rum and Coke. I am almost towards the end here, so I'll need to hydrate soon, but yes.
And unfortunately, we found out on the last episode some tragic news about Elmon's beverage. What would your beverage have been, out of curiosity, if it had not been pilfered?
So Iron Maiden teamed up with a brewery in England called Robinson's, and Robinson's makes amazing beer. So they made the Trooper Ale. It's a dark ale, and that is what, and, they serve it in pints, and that's one of my favorite drinks. So I would be drinking that, and I would definitely have more than one.
Iron Maiden, the band? Iron Maiden?
Yes. So the singer got together with Robinson's Brewery, and Robinson's is pretty big because, I went to a few pubs and they're like, yeah, we serve Robinson's. And and I've had, they had the Trooper, which, and then there's another ale, which is a light ale called the Light Brigade, named off the failed English attempt against the Russians. But I'm more of a dark ale type of person. So
is that a limited edition, or is that going to be is that in their lineup? I asked because that sounds amazing. I like darker beers. So is that going to be around for a while?
Yes, it's been around for a few years now. And whether it's in the can or in straight from the bottle, from the tap is the best, obviously. But yes, you can probably get it at a decent shop that sells loads of imports, because it'll say on there premium British beer or whatever. And when I went to there's a country called Isle of Man, which is between England and Ireland. They have the TT races, and they even show they have the sponsor Iron Maiden's beer, as one of the sponsors for the TT race. So I highly recommend it. Really good stuff. That's one of the few things I drink. So I really don't drink too much, but I will drink that. I try not to buy it because I would be an alcoholic if I drank it if I had it with me.
Good to know. So if you would like to make Elmon an alcoholic, it's very easy. Go purchase Iron Maiden Trooper Dark Ale. Okay, somebody later is going to read this, and you're going to have some sicko fan that shows up with a bunch of beer, and you're going to be like, what is happening?
Yeah, if you're a true fan of Elmon, bring him this beer to his table at the con, okay? And that's how you're gonna get cases of beer.
They'd have a trouble time because most cons don't allow you to bring alcohol from the outside. So
there are ways.
If
you ever try to bring alcohol on a cruise ship, it can be done.
You are grossly underestimating the power of cosplay.
Do you know what you guys are suggesting for the people out there? So technically I'm still employed in law enforcement, and you're suggesting they smuggle.
Yes, but you're not suggesting anything. We're suggesting it, and this podcast is called Drinking with Authors.
Yeah,
So if you would like to drink with Elmon, roughly about 5 days from now, you can figure out a way to smuggle your cosplay Iron Maiden Trooper. We are trying to help you out here. Stop trying to unhelp us, okay? Seriously.
Hey, in 5 days, they can smuggle all they want. I'll be, clear out the job. So, I've always was kind of a bit weird anyway, but they were cool about it. Law enforcement, I worked for two agencies, the police department and the sheriff's, and they were always cool with me writing and whatever. And I mean, they go, oh yeah, feel free to tell everybody about that. So they were actually very supportive. So I can't complain. But yeah, now I'll grow my hair out really long as soon as after I leave, and I might be doing some wild cosplay at the conventions next time you see me.
Oh, cool.
Very cool. See, definitely you're going to need a beverage. I'm not going to lie. When I go to conventions, beverages enter with me. I'm a vendor, though, so we can get away with a lot more. Just saying. Just throwing that out there. Okay. So let's do rapid fire questions. That's what this part of the podcast is. What is your favorite book of all time?
Favorite book of all time? Oh, gosh, that caught me on it. I mean, you blindsided me with that one.
Well, welcome to rapid fire questions. That's what we do here.
Well, I'll give you a non-rapid fire response because I'm having trouble thinking. Let's start with the one that really got me into reading and writing. Chronicles of Narnia.
Oh, that's a good one.
Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. And actually, right now, 4 more days left. I'm a resource officer, and the assistant principal was my 5th grade teacher 30 years ago. And so I even told her, I said, hey, remember that one time you read that book to the class and then I asked to borrow the rest of them and you lent them to me and then you said I could take them home? Well, yeah, I wrote a couple books now. So she was pleased by it. She goes, oh, you became a police officer and you write books. But yeah, I would say I'm going to credit that one because that one got me into writing. That one got me into that sparked my interest into the fantasy and all that. And, that opened, I guess, the window to the soul, if you could, call it something.
Well, that got super, super fancy there with the Lion and the Wardrobe. What is your least favorite book?
50 Shades of Grey.
Thank you. High five. We're just going to high five and we're not going to give it any more discussion. Okay. Next question. Vanessa. I fucking hate that book. That book is terrible.
I threw it in the trash. I was recommended that by so many people. They say, you have to read it. You have to read it. And I was like, okay. I saw it on sale at Target for almost nothing. So I was like, the hardcover, by the way, it was under $5. So I was like, oh, okay. I'll take it for under $5. After about the main character blushing 50 times before I, put it down, I was like, okay, I had enough.
I didn't get that far.
I haven't read them.
Sentences in, it's fucking terrible. Okay, she will not be on my podcast ever. Ever.
I have nothing against her personally. I just didn't like her book. So, there we go.
I'm gonna ask, what is your favorite book or movie, book to movie or TV show adaptation? Do you feel like was perfect?
Book to movie to TV show adaptation. And I just got done telling you on the last one that I don't watch too many movies. There have been a few. I wouldn't definitely not Harry Potter, but let's see. I think probably I'm gonna go a little old school here. Black Beauty.
Black Beauty. Okay.
Oh
yeah,
wow.
because they've done a pretty good job with the movie, and it's a very good book. So I would yes, that's the only thing. And I wanted to claim Back to the Future, but Back to the Future, because there are Back to the Future, the novel, but I never got through the whole thing. So and I heard a novel had quite a bit more going on, details. So, but Black Beauty, I've read the book and I've seen the movie. It's been a long time, but I liked both. So.
How did you feel about Narnia? You said Narnia was your favorite book. I
did not see the movie, so I can't. I couldn't judge.
Oh my goodness! I remember. You know what? I will tell you this. It was the BBC Narnia, which now I rewatched, and it wasn't as magical as it was when I was a kid. But the BBC Narnia is what got me to read all the books because I loved it. The movie so much, and then I watched the which is the one that Disney came out with a couple years back, which none of these people tend to finish out the whole series. Why can't they do all the books? I'm waiting for that day. But
because the movies didn't make money.
I know, but there's
that is the answer to any question of why they don't finish things. Is the movies don't make money, so they stop doing that, or they do dumb things and miscast people so that they're too old to play Percy Jackson in the movies after a certain point.
Yes.
Because actors age. People forget that, but they do.
They age? Are you serious? Like, I know. I have no idea.
Totes weird. Totes. Okay. Best fan experience.
Oh, I could say a recent one. I met these two just recently, and they went and opened up a Reddit page for my book series. So I would probably say that ranks up there. And yeah, let's just say that one. I'll leave it as that since this is rapid fire.
Do they dress up as their characters, or they just gushed over your books in your presence?
They were quite happy with they liked the video game. They were more enamored with the video game aspect. So that got there. Another fan experience. And so she didn't read the book, but at the time, but I had the promotion of Blood Knight, and one of the main characters is Althea. She has blonde hair and it parts right here. Well, this girl came up and then her mom was looking at my books, and her mom was like, said to her daughter, she's like, "You look like that girl in the poster." And everybody around the table says, "Oh, yeah, she kind of does." And I mean, her eye shape, she had those walnut shaped eyes, and then she had her hair parted, the same hairstyle. And, she had the same angle in her face. So I was like, "Hey, can I get a picture with you standing next to the poster?" So I did. And so I got their contact info. And what happened is her mom and dad got this armor, Althea's armor. It's like this chest plate and a cape, and her mana lance, which is the weapon I created for my series. It's called a mana lance. They made all that together. And so I told you the last one, it was with the Heather Spytek, which was the Playboy Playmate who modeled. Well, this girl is Coral. She modeled with Heather for the cover of the next book. So yeah, that was awesome. So that was cool. Yeah, they got that book. Her dad read it and was like, "Oh, yeah, let's So he started crafting that, helping get the armor pieces together. So she's going to come with me to my next convention, which is Fanboy Expo, and she's going to try to promote it dressed as Althea, one of my characters. So it's going to be. We're going to see how that goes. She's super excited. I'm all about trying new things. So it should be fun. And they'll have someone better look at than me. I mean, I figured so.
Well, it's hard to beat a chicken plate mail. Not gonna lie. Like that's definitely a thing. Okay, weirdest fan experience. What is the weirdest fan experience you've ever had?
Haven't had any really. No, I can't say I had any weird ones yet. Nothing comes to mind.
Well, so apparently Gauntlet Throne out there listening. Elmon needs you to act weird and bring beer. I like it. Both of these things.
Just don't be, taking off all your clothes, having someone come up and take all their clothes off in front. I don't want them to be escorted out, I'll be like, "Hey, go for it." But
well, you're not responsible for them being escorted out. So why are you worried about it?
Well, I mean, if they're a fan, I worry about that. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Vanessa, next.
Ooh. What is your favorite video game?
I had to fight the editor-in-chief for what was that, RPGamer about this, but Dragon Quest XI S, I gave it one of my favorite of all times. The story, when you think you beat the game, the story goes into the third act, which surprises just about most people because, it's a long story. I would say the characters are really memorable. And really, a lot of people discount video games, but it's the new way to tell a story because unlike movies or even seasons of, you watch your favorite seasons on Netflix or whatever, video games, you go with these characters you go on a journey with them for over 100 hours. And I mean, they have voice acting now, and they have a nice musical, like an orchestrated score sometimes that goes along with the really sad moments when someone dies. They're really the new form, except for being a passive audience. You bond with them more because you're an active audience. You control them. You, in some ways, you can control like certain scenes with them. So it's so you get more emotional attachment to them. So, but Dragon Quest XI, close, also up there. Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2, very, you know, you can look at reaction videos for all three of those games I mentioned, and you'll see loads of people crying, both men and women, when they play these games. Even one was just bawling her eyes. She couldn't even continue playing. So, I mean, that's how highly I'd rate these games. So, and hopefully I'd hope to create the same with Godshard Chronicles, that style of storytelling. That's my ultimate goal with the video game.
That actually is like the hugest compliment to see, I guess, to hear someone crying on a video game, because that means that they connected to the characters well, and you know, whoever wrote the characters wrote them in a way that made them relatable, and you know, you could identify. They've been doing
it for years. Final Fantasy X was famous for that. I mean, yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles, Dragon Quest. They've been doing it for years. It's just, I think a lot of people were unaware of that medium. But I remember everybody I talked to who played through Final Fantasy X, when they said they got to the ending, they're like, most reviews said they cried. YouTube videos, you can see the evidence out there.
Is that the one with lightning?
No, I did not like that one. That was horrible. That was just as we talked about 50 Shades of Grey. That's the 50 Shades of Grey of Final Fantasy, and you know, and I'll back that. I mean, that's you know, I did not like the character.
Vanessa. Wow. Just walked into that landmine, didn't you?
I'm just trying to remember, because I love Final Fantasy, but I'm horrible with like what number was what, you know.
13 came out. It was over 10 years ago now, but they're up to 15 now, and they're going to make they're developing 16. But I grew up all the way. I played 1. This 1 came out in the 80s, so I started at 1, and then I started from there. So, but 10 was my favorite. Was 6, but that was during they didn't have like the voice acting at the time. So, but yeah, 10 is up there, but I still like 6 better.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry, I got off topic. We're talking about books, not games.
This is the entire point of this podcast. You're allowed to get off topic.
I do have Vanessa. Another question. I have a backup question, because you triggered when you were talking about the video games and the music. One of my favorite things is listening to music when I write, and specifically, I do listen to music from video games, movies, soundtracks. When I'm trying, especially with fantasy, you want to spark, you know, emotions or battles, or do you write to music?
Yes, I use some music as an inspiration to write a scene, and some of it will come from these orchestral scores. So yes, I do. I agree with you on that. I'm completely with you. I can relate. And sometimes, yeah, some of these songs will really, you know, set the scene. I mean, it's really the scene is what you're going for, and they set the scene, and all you gotta do is just write the scene.
Is there a particular one that's your favorite?
No, it just really depends on. I mean, of course, I played through so many games. Like Noriyuki Iwadare, he's written many, you know, soundtracks already. So I mean, he's one I listen to. Sometimes I'll listen to his if I want to capture a feel of a certain character interacting with a love interest or such. I'll listen to this song that appeared on this game, which had a similar scene, and it helps get me in the mood to write like a scene like that. Or, you know, there's a scene with a lot of tension or a lot of desperation, you know, I'll listen to something like that too. Or you know, long drives, I'll listen to music, and then I'll slowly form, you know, that loose outline I told you about in my head. So
yeah.
But no, I relate. I do exactly what you do. So
yeah, it's good. Yeah.
So your profession does lend itself well, but how do you handle fight scenes? Because I've seen a lot of people who write fight scenes, and they write additional appendages and stuff like that. That, you know, he grabs this hand with this hand, he grabs this hand with this hand, and then he punches him in the face, and I'm like, how many arms does this human have? Because we've now gone through 3, And although I appreciate the vigor, I don't think that's accurate. Do you do any, how do you play out your fight scenes? How do you do that?
I don't get too detailed. I mean, and by the way, I'm no MMA fighter or anything like that, but I mean, I have trained to fight. I took, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, some boxing. I've been in plenty of fights at work. People of all sizes. I mean, small, much bigger, larger than me. Some where, you're like, oh, am I going to make it through alive on this one? So one thing, when you get in a fight, you get an adrenaline dump. So I thought I pulled like a ligament or something in my thumb when I was, I hyperextended it, didn't pull it, but I hit the guy in the face because he was fighting us. And I didn't notice I injured my thumb because I accidentally hit him at a certain angle, which wasn't good for me, although it wasn't really good for his face either. But when I went to cuff his friend, who was, not very cooperative, I couldn't grab his friend, but I didn't know why. And it was because the adrenaline dump. And most of the fights I've been in, I didn't realize I was injured until afterwards. So when you get these fight scenes and people feel all this injuries and during the midst of a fight, that's half the time that's not true because you got so much adrenaline. Also, when you're fighting somebody, you have to watch out. You get tunnel vision. That means all the blood is going, your vision really dims and it gets and really in a fight, you don't want that. You want to be aware of everything, your peripheral vision, but it's really hard. And it's a natural reaction. And so I would say I try to write my fight scenes as I experience them, but, keep it in a narrative type of way that's entertaining for the audience. Because, if I write it exactly like a police reports are boring. They're just all facts. So you got to have one thing and I would say to add on to that, police reports is very detrimental to writing a novel. I've seen police officers who try to become authors, and they start writing their stuff in like a police report. And some police officers write in a lot of passive voice, like this was, he was struck by this, he was, hit by that. So that was one thing I had to retrain myself from years of police report writing, was to get back into, narrative writing or actual prose writing where you capture your emotions or the emotions of your characters and all that. So, but yes, fighting is concerned. It does help. Like I said, I've seen stabbings, I've seen gunshot wounds, I've seen, dead people here and there. I've saved people's lives, and I've seen people beat the hell and back. So all that I can apply to my stories in a way that's, won't take the reader out of the immersion, because if you have something silly like, oh, I stabbed him in the leg and he dropped over dead, that's a little bit silly, they'd be like, that wouldn't happen,
No, that makes sense. Did you actually answer the question I asked about how you keep additional limbs and stuff like that? How many people have been in your fight scenes? Like, if there are 5 people, how do you keep track of all 5 of the humans in the fight scene? Or elves or fairies or goblins or...
Well, so far, when they had 5 people, if more than 5 people, usually my main character will also have some help. So he just focuses on the 1 or 2 he's fighting right then and there. And I don't have my character where he's just like taking on like 100 and he's just as skilled, because from what I've noticed, it doesn't matter how good you are, you get 10 people surround you in a circle, you can't see all of them. So I don't make my character like a super being, I try to make it where there's a conflict, there's a challenge, because the more conflict and challenge you have, the more rewarding it is for the reader when your main character overcomes these challenges. So,
but do you ever act it out when you're like, have you ever been like in a room by yourself and kind of like, okay, I'm here, and you're just trying to like sort of, I've heard writers do this like in front of mirrors, just to kind of play it out and be like, okay, this arm is over here, this is over here. Like, do you do anything like that?
No, I don't mess around too much. Like I said, I don't get too dragged into the details. My fight scenes are, I try to keep it quick and you know, basically entertaining, but moving on to the next point. So I don't have, like, to answer your question, I don't have all the appendages as left hand in this or as right, unless it's really necessary to, you know, the actual scene, you know, like, so, you know, my main character, he's left-handed. So I might mention, you know, his, you know, if his left hand gets injured, he can't, obviously he's have to use his offhand for his, you know, to use a sword, you know, I'll mention that, but I don't, you know, keep track of all, you know, the steps involved with that, because you can get too technical and you can get too boring, if that doesn't make sense. Or at least in my opinion. I mean, some people could pull it off. Every writer's different. So if you can pull it off, by all means, keep doing it.
What do you think your writer Achilles heel is? Like, where do you have difficulty?
Romance. And that's why I romance, and it used to be female characters. So, which I actually like writing female characters because it's challenging and I try to get into that mindset, and that's fun for me. But romance, I was never a romantic type of, you know, like, I'm going to buy you flowers, which, you know, trust me, I had many lectures during my university days about that. You know, you're not very sensitive at all, or you don't do this and you're not very thoughtful. Well, I mean, I just, you know, not that kind of person. You know, I'm more like, you know, a mission orientated sort of chap, you know? So, romance, that's why when, so Godshard series is for, we take on other authors. I love if another author comes to write for my series. You know, I don't want to be the only storyteller. I want it to be a shared world. So when I approached Garner writes female characters and he covers romance. And I was like, ooh, that's something I don't cover. That could be like, you know, so my Achilles heel could be like, you know, that's one thing he covers that can, you know, he could write a story on that. And that's how I see other authors. I see what their strengths are. I don't ever look at another author and to me, it's like a pissing contest, you know, like, oh, well, I'm better than you at this. I don't think like that. I think like, oh, what's this one good at? Because I might want to collaborate with them, you know? Like,
no, I think that's actually pretty cool, especially when you're in a collaborative situation where if it's your weakness, you find to work with other people that you mesh well, who are stronger in that area, so that your world is very versatile and it has all these different components. So that's actually a cool way of looking at it. You know, is your weakness will be like, okay, no problem. I'll just find someone who can do that.
Exactly. And my latest upcoming book, Blood Knight, I'm actually tackling more scenes with Althea because it has her point of view. And I'm really covering her stuff and also covering more of the romance, trying to. But those are really challenging for me to write. But once again, I mean, it's fun. And I like a challenge. But yeah, when it comes to other authors, I always look for stuff that, you know, hey, you know, what can you do? What are you good at writing? Like, for example, you cover like the serial killers and stuff like that. Like, that's something I could never do. So I always have like, I always see other authors as like, oh, you know, potential collaboration, or let me pick your brain, you know, how do you do this? You know, so it's, and I think that's really how, I mean, this is all, if you think you know everything about writing, you're not going to, you have reached a peak. You're not getting better. You've plateaued. As long as you feel like you can learn something new, which you're in constant state of learning, you're going to get better. And I think that's, you know, how any artist should be, whether you draw, paint, or write.
No, I think that's a really good perspective to have, because I think that if, you know, there are things that I think each of us as authors or just creatives, I'm going to say the word creative, do really, really well. And I think if you can't recognize that you don't do that very well, like I'm very well aware of the fact that I never wanted to have a world building book ever in the entire world. I don't care if I have a fantasy idea or sci-fi idea. If it involves me having to keep track of a stupid freaking book and stuff, nope, zero interest in moving forward with that. I know I will be terrible at it. I do not want to do it. But I think that when you can find your strengths as an author and lean on those, and also know when somebody else can help you and reach out to those people and go, I like this style, because romance is also very subjective to the person reading it. And fantasy romance, in a way, is very different than say, modern day sweet home romance, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Where the entire book needs to be a romantic swirl of something. So it's very subjective, and some people want to read that, and some people are like, okay, skip to the end, got it, you got her flowers, moving on, you know, like, so I think that's very smart. Okay, Vanessa, I'm giving you the final question.
Oh gosh, no pressure.
Yeah, I know. I can tell by the amount of rum and coke you've had that it's not sitting on the top of your brain. I appreciate you, though, very much. Not one of Vanessa's strengths, not as an author, but as a co-host. I like putting her on the last question because it totally messes her up, because I can tell she's like, I'm just enraptured in what people are saying.
Whatever.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask, do you use any special programs when you write? I personally like writing in Scrivener. I think that also goes because it's great for housing my world building notes, Erica.
I hate Scrivener, but moving on.
Do you handwrite, or do you use Scrivener, or you only use Word, or what's your your method of writing?
Well, that's a good question, because I've heard loads of people use Scrivener, and I guess I'm just old-fashioned. But so I'm left-handed, so if I prefer writing, but I smear the page, and my handwriting, half the time when I make notes, I can't read it afterwards. So and I do that in police work all the time. I like try to take a report, and it's like, okay, what was the description of that subject again? By the way, I say this now because I'm leaving. So if any of my supervisors saw this, or they'll probably laugh anyway, because I usually admitted such silly things. But I use Word, and one thing, the reason being is because, and even with Word, I don't like it when it's nice when it catches a spelling or a grammar error, but sometimes when you want it intentional, that gets annoying when you see those, red or blue lines on the screen, which Word does. But no, I just prefer doing it in Word. I've got used to writing, and, I know some people write better when they write pen and paper, and I get it. I do too. I just can't write very well. So that's why I use Word. And Scrivener, I just haven't played with it yet. I suppose if I played with it one day, and I call that like,
don't want to build a world book, don't bother. It's a lot of effort. Not that Scrivener is bad, but if you do not want to save all of the things and go through the minutia of creating character cards and all of that stuff, like if that is not your jam, nope. Scrivener is not the tool for you.
Thanks for saving me the work then, because that's how I would see it as, oh, this character card. Well, okay, then I'll get on a tangent on building character cards and all that. And then what I did not do, I did not write the chapter I was meant to write, which I could have had done, but I was doing character cards and, whatever.
Well, don't be offended. I think you're fantastic for certain authors. But
I will tell you, since you are using Word, I was the same way, because especially with fantasy, you have a lot of unique words. If you just add it, right click it and add it to the dictionary, it won't do the squiggly lines anymore.
Okay. I think I did it the dumb way. I did it ignore, and I do what I do initially is I put each chapter as its own Word document file. So chapter 1 is one file, chapter 2, and then I'll combine them at the end, and then when I do the formatting. But yeah, what I did was to ignore all.
Oh, but the problem is, if you ignore all and then you exit out of it and then you reopen it, it populates them back up. So what I would do is, especially when you have unique names.
Oh my goodness, we're giving word lessons.
I'm just helping him out.
Well, wrapping up the podcast, nobody's like, this is the crescendo, is a word lesson from Vanessa. Okay,
for my fantasy writers out there, if you're tired of those damn squiggly lines, you add it to your dictionary and you won't see those suckers.
I'll do that next time. I just, you know what? It's as simple as it sounds, and probably some people will be like, why didn't you think of that? Or you didn't know that? Well, I was cheap back then. I just purchased Word within the last, past year. So, I was using like even something cheap. I think, what was that? What's the other one you can download for free or whatever?
I think it's like a Notepad.
No, I wasn't using Notepad. It was another program, and it was it let you save Word documents. Anyway, it didn't have all the fancy stuff like Word does. So I was just used to that, but it got me by. I mean, I managed to write like 2 novels with it. So
yeah.
Okay. Are you done with your word lesson for the day there?
I'm done, Erica. I'm sorry. I disappointed you, but
you know, I was hoping for a really epic question, and what I got was a lesson in how to use Microsoft Word, which does not help my buzz at all from my peach mango. So anyway.
That's like, you know, you pick up a, you know, someone, you know, off Tinder, not to say that Vanessa does it all the time, and they have the picture of the Lamborghini in the background, and he looks handsome, and he shows up in a beat up car, and he looks like really disheveled, like he, you know, came from a meth lab.
I love that somehow this equaled the Tinder analogy for Vanessa. That was awesome. Now that's an ending to this podcast that I appreciate.
That's because I saw her on Tinder. I'm just kidding.
Wow. Okay, nobody go on Tinder looking for Vanessa and start swiping. Okay, we're not doing that. She's on there, just don't do it. It's creepy and weird.
Oh, I didn't know that was a joke. I didn't know she was on there.
Okay, I'm mostly kidding. I'm not kidding at all. It's fine. Don't go on there. Okay, but let's tell people how to find your books.
Okay, so you can go on Amazon, just search Godshard, which is one word, by the way, Godshard, or you can do godshard.com, and it'll have the links on the, you know, you click on the books and they'll take you right to the page. Or if you want a signed copy, you can always contact, and I believe we have it even on an eBay shop too. So I'd have to check on that because I haven't checked on that in a while. I've been too busy writing.
And obviously look for at conventions and stuff, because he would love to sign books. If you come up to the booth, most especially bringing him Trooper by Iron Maiden English Beer, go ahead, find it somewhere.
Yeah.
And if you cosplay as one of his characters, I'm just saying he probably will give you a free book if you cosplay as the character and show up at his booth. Not gonna lie, I'm throwing that out there for you. Anyway, okay. He's like, okay.
Now you have to tell us if anyone smuggles in beer for you, and especially if it's in a unique way, you'll have to keep us updated on that.
I'll tell you some interesting stories too once we get. I mean, I've had some interesting other stories, not pertaining to my booth at, you know, these conventions, but you know, nothing. But I don't know if I'm going to do well. I actually have given away free books. You know, if like some middle school kid, one middle school kid, he picked it up. He really wanted it. He asked his mother, says, "Can I have this? Can we get it?" She's like, "No." Well, I remember being in middle school. I wanted books and I couldn't afford them, so I was like, you know, here you go. You know, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, not to say I encourage shoplifting, but if someone ever stole my, well, actually, someone found a discussion about pirating my books. Somebody wanted Dark Pariah. That was the one I wrote after Cursed Night. They were talking about how to get it downloaded for free, and they say, you need to stop this. And I said, no, let them do it. They want to steal my book to read it. Let them steal my book and read it, and pass the word around, spread the word. That's all I care about. Yeah, I don't mind. So
do not steal his book and read it. Download the book, pay for it. Believe it or not, creatives need to be supported for their artwork.
Yes, it does help. But you know, I'm not going to go after you with a shotgun and whatever, all that. So
please don't. That's probably frowned upon. Okay. This has been Drinking with Authors, the Literary Briefs edition. I'm your host, Erica Lance. My co-host has been the amazing and fantastic Vanessa Valiente. And our guest has been the magical Elmon Dean Todd. And we will see you guys next time.
All right. Thank you for having me. And once again, do not go on Tinder looking for Vanessa.